Good evening, everybody. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm pre-recording this. My voice is a little bit scratchy today. I've been suffering from allergies, so instead of coughing and clearing my throat constantly while you guys, while I stream it and you guys watch it, I thought that I would record ahead of time, and then I'm going to just release this video and, cut out all the stuff that doesn't sound good and the drinking of my tea, and you guys can watch it and I'll be there with you and we can have a conversation while we watch the video. I do want to remind everybody that Tuesdays we are still doing our I want to call it a Zoom classroom. I don't want to say Zoom meeting, Zoom classroom. The Zoom classroom is still available. It's every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. All you need to do is reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or on email at admin@futureofcode.org. You can go to futureofcode.org and just scroll to the bottom and find our information there too. Reach out to us on any of those platforms and just ask for the link, and we will send you the link to that week's Zoom classroom. Again, that's Tuesdays at 6. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about an inventory bag. So if you remember last week, I taught you guys how to create triggers, and you can go back and watch that video. In fact, that video does have some different pieces to it that I asked you to finish. And if you finish those, we will put those on social media, and you'll maybe get some social media fame, huh? So this week we're going to work on a bag program. The bag program is just an additional little piece that you can add. What we're going to do over the next couple weeks is I'm going to talk to you guys just a little bit at a time about different parts and pieces that you can add to create a more full game. So today is the inventory bag. The inventory bag, what we're going to do is we're going to create it to where it can show or it can hide. So the bag is literally, it'd be like opening a bag and then closing a bag. And then the inventory, we're only going to put 3 items down on our canvas, but it gives you an idea of how we can pick those items up. We can keep track of that item. I didn't say we can keep track of the quantity of that item, but we can keep track of the item itself. Quantity is a little bit different. We have to add a little bit more as far as data management, but that's okay. We can, maybe a different time we can work on that. And then those items will be picked up off the ground and be placed into the bag. So if your bag is hidden, put away, you won't see those items. But if you show the bag, they will show up. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to create. We're not going to start from any template today, mainly because everything that we're doing can be pretty quickly and easily made. So let's go and click create. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to pick 3 different sprites, and then I also want to create a bag. Now the bag, I make it pretty easy. It is just a brown square. So I'm going to do that first and foremost. But let's get rid of the cat here. We don't need the scratch cat. So let's delete him. And then let's go down here to the scratch icon, or the choose sprite icon, excuse me. And let's grab paint. This is going to bring up our box here, our paint box. We messed with this a lot last week, so you should be familiar with it. Go ahead, grab the rectangle or square tool. It's rectangle tool because you can make rectangles, not just squares. And I'm going to change the fill to more of a brown color here. Just kind of create something somewhat brown. It's good enough for me. And then I like just having a thin black outline. But this time I'm going to try 0 outline, just so it's a brown square that shows up. And let's just make that. And that's actually about the size that you want it to be. Go ahead and center that up. Make sure those crosshairs are over each other. Center that up, and then you're going to place the bag kind of down here in the corner, just a bit. And the reason being is our items we're going to place off to the side here. So that's the bag. That is all we need to do to create it. I'm going to rename that sprite to bag. And that's it. Now we need to choose 3 more sprites. These can be whatever you want them to be. So just go in to choose a sprite, click on that. I'm gonna click sure, Apple. I'll drag that off to the side there so it's not showing up inside my bag. And then I will choose, I don't know, ball. And then why not? I think there was a potion. Yeah, potion. That sounds fun. Anybody who plays, you know, like old games or anything like that, a lot of times when we had bags, it was to carry potions and healing stuff and regents and hearthstones, you know. So, you know, this is kind of a classic feeling for me. So I just picked 3 sprites. And again, they can be anything that you like. So go ahead and pick those real quick. Now, the place we're going to start here is we're just going to start by giving some atmosphere to the bag. So what we want to do is when the bag is shown, or when we want the bag to be shown, it shows up. Otherwise, we want it to hide. This is kind of like in the old games we used to play. It was kind of like throwing the bag on your back. You know, it was a backpack style bag that you would have. But then when you wanted something out of it, you would press B for bag. And it was kind of like pulling the bag off and flipping there was actually a icon that looked like the bag had been opened. And, you know, you could look inside the bag. That's kind of the thought process we want with this, is that we're hiding the bag, we're putting it on our back, but when we're ready to look into it, we'll flip it off and open it up. So let's create that right now. And what we need is we need some way to know whether our bag is already open. We need to know if it's opened or closed already. So we need a variable for that. First thing we're going to do this bag open and close is create the variable. So let's go to variables and click make a variable. And I'm just going to call this bag. You could call it bag open or bag open close. Doesn't really matter. It's just going to be bag for me. And it's okay that it's for all sprites. Trying to think, I don't think it actually matters whether it's for just this sprite or all sprites, but actually it does need to be for all sprites. I take that back. It does need to be for all sprites. So let's say okay to that. And now let's start writing some code. So the first thing we want to do for this set of code is not when green flag is clicked. We so often do when green flag is clicked, but right now we're not going to do that. It will come back around. Also make sure you are clicked in your bag. I was accidentally clicked in potion there. Make sure you click in your bag. And we're going to grab when space key is pressed, but we're going to change that to the B key, when B key is pressed. And that's going to stand for bag for us. Now, we need to know if it's open or if it's closed. So once again, we've discussed this a couple times now in the last couple videos. That's just a binary choice. Is it open? Is it closed? Is it true? Is it false? So when we're doing a binary choice like that and trying to make a decision based off a binary choice, we need usually an if then else statement, because if we're not doing one thing, we're going to do another thing. So let's go to control and grab the if then else block. Now, like I said, this is a binary choice, so we don't have to actually do anything but 2 things, and that's open it or close it, which means that for the bag, this variable up here that we created, we don't have to keep track of a lot of stuff in there. All we have to do is keep track of a 0 or a 1, and that'll tell us whether or not the bag is closed or open. So what we're going to do is we are going to say that if the bag is equal to 0, we're going to do something. Then if the bag is equal to 1, we're going to do something else, indicating whether it's open or closed. So let's go in, and since we're looking for an equal sign, we're going to go to operators, and let's grab our equal sign, and we'll just drag that into the if then else here. Like I said, we're going to see if bag is equal to 0, so we can change that 50 to 0. And then we'll go to variables and we'll grab the bag pill icon, or block, excuse me, and we will drop that in there. So now if our bag is equal to 0, we're going to do something. If it's equal to 1, we're going to do something else. Like I said, that's pretty simple. We don't really have to worry about too much. Well, I'm going to say that if our bag is equal to 0, we want to hide it, meaning that our bag is not open. So let's go to looks, and we're going to use show and hide. Well, since we know that if we're going to hide it if it's equal to 0, we know we're going to need show in our other spot here. So since it's the inverse of it, right? So let's show and hide. And like I said, if its bag is equal to 0, we're going to hide it. Otherwise, we're going to show it. Now we have a problem here. If I press this, I can keep pressing B and the bag never comes back because the bag is already set to 0. It doesn't come back. It doesn't help us any. We are left with the bag hidden. So what we need to do is when we hide it, we need to set the bag to 1. When we want to show it, we need to set the bag to 0. Or when we show it, we need to set the bag to 0 so that it's flipping back and forth. So we're kind of creating this like teeter-totter sort of variable save that is going on. When it's one thing, it tips one direction. When it's the other thing, it tips the other direction. So we need to do that by going into variables, and we're going to grab set bag to 0. We're going to grab 2 of these, and what we're going to do is we're going to change one of these to 1. So like I said, when you show it, it'll set it to 0, and when you hide it, it will set it to 1. That way, again, it's just that teeter-totter back and forth. This will show and hide our bag properly. So let's go ahead and drag these into the right spots. When we hide it, we want it to be a 1. And when we show it, we want it to be a 0. And you'll notice that these are just the inverse of what's happening here. So if it's 0, it's going to come in here. It's going to come into this if-then, but we want to invert it, so it's going to become a 1. If it's not a 1, then it's going to come in, or if it's not a 0, then it's going to come into the else, which means it's only going to be a 1, and so we want to invert that. So now, if we press our B key, there we go, we should have a show and hide working properly. So pretty simple, just to make sure that something pops up and goes away when you hit a key. And we're actually going to use this bag theory right here to show and hide the bag to also show and hide our inventory sprites, but only once we've collected them. Otherwise, we want them to actually just be on the ground still. We're not too concerned about them until they're in our bag, because if they're in our bag, if we put the potion in our bag and then we put our bag back on our back, like hiding the bag, we don't want to see the potion anymore. But when we open it, we want the potion to show up in our bag here. So that's what we're going to do next. Actually, before we get to that, I'm just looking at my notes here. Why don't we actually add a little bit of setup to the bag here and to the program in general. So let's go ahead and go to events, and let's grab when green flag is clicked. When green flag is clicked, what I want to do is I actually just want the bag to show up in the corner here. I always want it to show up in the same spot. We could allow the user to actually drag the bag around. In old games, it used to be able to do that. You could drag the bag around the screen. Some games you couldn't. Diablo, for instance, had bags, and you could it showed up in one spot. You couldn't do that. But I'm thinking of like Ultima Online, which is another old game. It was before World of Warcraft. You could drag the bag around the screen, but your inventory followed it. That takes a little more effort. We're not going to worry about that today. We just want it to show up in the right in the corner here. And the one thing we wanted to do as well is we always want it to go to the back layer because we always want our inventory to be above it. We want our inventory to be in front of it. So we want to move the bag back. And we want to continuously do that just in case someone clicks on the bag. It'll bring it forward. We want to push it back. So we're going to go into control. I'm going to grab a forever block. And like I said, the two things we need to do is we need to go to looks and we need to say go backwards, go to back. So we'll grab go to front layer. We're going to change this back layer. Go to back layer. And then we just want to set its X and Y location, which we already have as 81, -35. Let's go to motion and grab a go to X and Y. And the X will be 81 and Y will be -35. that's pretty easy. That's all we need for setup at the moment. There's one more thing we're going to need to do, but we'll get to that in just a second here. And we'll figure that out once we start collecting our items. Let's go ahead and take care of that real quick. I'll give you guys just 1 second here. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's start collecting our inventory. Now, our inventory is going to behave pretty much the same way for everything. So once we get one, we can figure out the others pretty quick. But we have to get that first one. The first one I'm going to collect is the potion. So there's a couple things we need to do here. One, we need to have a location for the potion that's out on the ground. We need to put that someplace to where we can pick it up. Now, if we pick it up, which we're going to pick it up just by clicking on it, it then needs to be placed over here in our bag. That's a different location. So we're going to have two go-to X and Y's. We know that. We're also going to have a click function when this sprite is clicked. We need to have that as well. And then we also need to have the availability for it to hide and show when the bag is being shown. So that's a little bit interesting as well. So we're going to have to figure that out. So there's 3 different functions we're going to create in here. One to just make it generate on the ground. One to make it be picked up off the ground and put into our bag. And then another one to hide and show it once it's in the bag. So let's start with the first one. The first one is the easiest. So let's click on potion. And the first one is have it generate while it's on the ground here. This is fairly easy. We actually already have it sitting on what we're going to consider the ground. We just need to make sure that one, it's shown, because if we hide it and put it in our bag and then restart the program, it's still hidden. So we need to make sure that it's shown. And then we just want it to show up at its X location. I actually laid these out already where I wanted them. You can change it, but I laid them out where I wanted them. So I'm just going to make this really easy for myself. And I'm going to go to events. And I'm going to grab when green flag is clicked. And then, like I said, we want to make sure it's shown. So we're going to go to looks. And we're going to grab show. And then the next thing is we're going to make sure that it's placed where we want it when the program starts. So let's go to motion. We're going to grab go to X and Y. And my X and Y happens to be -79 and 127, which that's already saved here. So we're all good. We're ready to go. Now this is all I actually need for the beginning here. Not too bad. Pretty easy setup. So let's move on to the next part. The next part, as I mentioned, is we need to be able to pick this up when we click on it. Well, this isn't too bad. When I click on it is actually part of Scratch, so we can add that in. Okay, so sorry about that. Hopefully with a quick cut, you'll notice that the light has changed here just a little bit. The light died on me that is in front of me here. And so I had to try to get some more outside light in, and hopefully it's looking okay. So anyway, let's get back to the code we were doing here. The next thing we need to do is we need to, like I said, make it to where when the sprite is clicked, that something happens. And that something is that it's going to be picked up and it's going to be put into our bag. So there's a couple things that happens when we pick it up. First off, we need to know whether or not, when we pick it up, whether or not the bag is hidden, because that's going to dictate whether or not we show it in the bag, or if we just had put it in our bag and we're not paying attention, because the bag's closed. We're just kind of like dropping it into our bag and just knowing it's there, but we don't need to see it inside the bag at the moment. The next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we move its relative position. So it's right here at the moment. I'm going to place it probably up in the top right corner of our bag. And then we also need to know that it's part of our inventory. We need to make sure that that piece of our inventory is kept track of. We're going to need this for a variety of reasons. One, when we open and close the bag, it'll be nice to know whether or not we need to show or hide the potion. And then next, we also want to know, if we're using it in the game, that it's available. It's good to keep track of your inventory. So we're going to create, before we get started, a list called inventory. Let's go to variables. And in variables, we're going to make a list and call that inventory. And we want to make this for all sprites because we're going to use this with the apple, we're going to use this with the ball, we're going to use this with the potion, or whatever sprites you have chosen. This could also be used for a variety of other sprites in your game. Gold, gems, all sorts of crazy stuff. Anything we could think of to put in there. And let's press OK. This is going to create an inventory. You're going to see that the inventory is going to take up a lot of space and cover some stuff. You can move it around if you want to see what is going on there. Otherwise, you can just click the checkmark box down here in the make a list area, and that'll just hide it. I'm going to leave it open so you guys can see what it's doing, but feel free to hide it. If you can see mine, that should be enough for the moment. All right, let's go to events, and we're going to grab when this sprite is clicked. Grab when this sprite is clicked. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add this to our inventory. So let's jump back down to variables real quick, go to the make a list section, and we're going to add thing to inventory. But that thing, we're going to name it the name of our item. So I'm going to put this as potion. Add potion to inventory. Well, now that we have it in the inventory, I can add this here. That's great. We also wanted it to move to our bag. So I'm going to move it relative to where it's at. And you'll notice that when I moved it, I clicked on it once to add it, but when I moved it, I had to click a second time, and I added potion again. So that's not great. That's something that we would probably have to fix. I'm not going to worry about it at the moment, but it does bring up a good point that we never actually initialize and remove our inventory. We created inventory, but when we create a new variable, we should probably initialize that new variable. So let's go back to bag. Since I'm making bag kind of my home sprite, my parent sprite, I'm going to put the clear inventory here because that clears inventory for all three of these items. And what we're going to do is we're going to delete all of inventory, and we're going to drop that in right below the forever loop. Don't put it inside the forever loop because that'll cause some issues. You want to put it right before. So let's delete all of inventory. Let's see if that works. And that does work. So now I'm going to have to place this sprite. So I drag the sprite back in here. And I like its position. That's about where I want it to be. If I move this a little bit, maybe a little bit farther over. But there we go. That's about where I want it to be when I put it in the bag. So when this sprite is clicked, I need to move its position. So let's go to motion. And we're going to click go to X and Y. And I'm going to set it to the new position, which is 134X and 23Y. And we can test this. I can restart this, and when I click on it, sure enough, it moves over. Now we have a problem here, and I'll show you what that problem is. Let me hide the bag and restart this program. When I click on the inventory here, when I click on the potion, it's going to move it to my bag, but my bag isn't shown at the moment. So it actually just puts that bottle in kind of a weird position, which I don't want it to be there hanging in midair. So what we need to do is we need to find out, is the bag currently being shown? And if it is being shown, do we hide or show the potion or the item we just collected? So this is very similar to what we did in bag here. The only difference is we don't need to set bag or to 1 or 0. We just need to know if bag is equal to 0, hide, otherwise show. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy this over to potion here. Let's grab that code. Like I said, we get rid of the set bag equal to 0 and set bag equal to 1 because the bag sprite is already taking care of that. Now we're going to drop this right below the go to X and Y. And hopefully if we've done this right, let's restart this program. I'm going to hide the bag and click on the potion. And I have a problem there. And the problem is, I probably have these backwards at the moment. Because I'm saying if bag is equal to 0, then hide, otherwise show. Well, let me try this real quick, because my notes say something a little bit different. And sure enough, we had them just a little bit backwards. So if bag is equal to 0, we want to show it, otherwise we want to hide it. And that's because this isn't the choice of what to do. This is a reaction of what has already been done. And that's because when we click over here, we're setting the bag to 1 and we're setting it to 0 after we've shown or hidden it. So it's going to be just the opposite. Okay. Now, here's our other problem, is when I click on the button B, it is not actually showing it or hiding it anymore. The potion's it's not showing up any longer. And that's because we have come in here and we have hidden or shown it, but we haven't actually created something that says, okay, well, we've collected the potion. If we've collected the potion, then we need to show or hide that potion. You know, if we put just a forever loop around this right here, you know, that would create some bugs. That would create some issues. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of those right now. It might work in Scratch 3. I built this in Scratch 2, but I don't think so. I think it would still create some bugs. What we need to do is we need to know when we click the B button, do we hide or show the potion as well as the bag? So this is going to be very, very similar to the bag B button pressed right there. Very similar to this. And it's going to be using what we see here, but also, like I said, just the inverse of it. It's going to be showing, because this is a reaction to something that has already happened, we need a reaction to something that just happened. So let's start to build that. First thing we're going to need is events. We're going to grab when space is clicked, and we're going to change that to B, when B is clicked. Now we need to know, does our potion exist in our inventory? Is it something we've already collected? If it's something we've already collected, then we need to show or hide it. What we don't want to do is we don't want to have it not be collected, be down here and not be collected, and be accidentally showing or hiding what's on the ground when we press B. So we need to figure that out first and foremost. And what we're going to do is we are going to say, let's find it, hold on, item number of potion in inventory. And we have item number of thing in inventory. I'm going to change this to potion. Go to variables, into the list section, and grab item number of potion in inventory. Now the item numbers can only be positive numbers. They can only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. They cannot be negative numbers or 0. So what we can do is we can actually just see if this ever shows up as 0. We can say, is the item number of potion equal to 0? And if it's not equal to 0, then we're going to hide and show it. So let's do that. We need to go into operators, grab an equal sign. Like I said, we're going to check if item number of potion is equal to 0. Meaning, is it on the ground? This tells us, is it on the ground? And that says true when I click on it, because if I do item number of potion in inventory, inventory is blank right now, it comes back with 0. So I say, is item number of potion equal to inventory? It says true, it's on the ground. Well, I want to hide and show it when it's not on the ground. So we need to grab a not symbol here from operators and drag all of this into the not symbol. We're going to say not item number of potion in inventory is equal to 0. So this is telling us essentially, is it in my bag? Because remember, item number of potion in inventory equal to 0 means it's on the ground. The inverse of that means it's not on the ground, it's in your bag. So we're checking for that. Operator. Now that we've checked for that, we actually need to put this in an if-then statement. We only want to do what's inside of this. We only want to show or hide if the potion is in the bag. So let's go to control. We're going to grab an if-then statement. We only need an if-then statement because otherwise we're just not going to do anything. We're not going to do it at all. We don't need that else there. Even though this is a binary, in another sense, it is a binary, we don't have to worry about that. Because the binary part comes next. We need to know if the bag is open or closed. So what this is doing is just checking to see, does the potion exist? Okay, if the potion exists, then let's do something with that potion. But it's all based on what the bag is doing. We have to keep track of the bag. So thankfully, we just keep reusing this right here. We're going to duplicate, right click and duplicate the if bag is equal to 0, then show or hide. Now, once again, let's drag this in, and you'll notice that there's a difference between reacting to something that has already happened and reacting to something that has happened. And I'm going to show you that now. If I click the green flag here, I'm going to open the bag, I'm going to collect the item. Now if I close the bag, you'll notice it's doing just the opposite. Once again, this is what's happening once it's been done and what's happening once it's currently being done. This is a bit difficult and can be a little bit finicky and create bugs. This is what's called race conditions. It means that certain things are trying to race to the finish line and get done first. So the way that we do this in this case is we're just going to flip show and hide again. So I'm going to drag hide into the if and show into the else. Now if we restart this, if I hide the bag, collects it, that's great, shows it when I open, doesn't show it when I close it. Now let's try the reverse here. Perfect, it works well. Now I'm going to show you how to put this into the other, the apple and the ball or whatever inventory you have created. It is actually the exact same thing, thankfully. We just need to change a couple of items. So I'm going to do one, I'm going to do the ball, and I'm going to leave the apple. And what I want you guys to do is I want you to go through and do that third one for me. I want to see you guys practice on your own without me guiding you. So I'll show you the second one, and then you do the third one. So what we're going to do, like I said, when we start copying code and we want to make sure that the codes in the right, or the go-to X and Y's are in the right spot, we did this last time, is I'm going to go to ball, and I'm going to go to motion, and I'm just going to grab go to X and Y here. You notice it's not the same, so I'm going to have to change it. Go to X and Y, and I'm going to change it to -159 and 48, which is the location of my ball. And that's because as I start to copy code from the potion, it's going to have the X and Y space for the potion. It won't have the X and Y space for the ball. So I just want to bring out some code into my blocks here that is kind of a memory for me to know where that ball was. So let's go to the potion. And I'm just going to grab the when green flag is clicked, and I'm going to drag it to the ball. I'm going to grab the when the sprite is clicked, drag it over to the ball, and I'm going to grab when B key is pressed and drag it to the ball. Now if I go into the ball, the only thing I don't like is it stacks the code in the top corner. So let's drag this out to where it looks a little bit nicer. And we're going to go through each of these one little piece at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is when green flag is clicked. And this is why I saved the location. It shouldn't change the location, but if I accidentally hit when green flag is clicked and hadn't changed it, the ball would come up here to where the potion was, and I would forget where I put the ball, and I kind of like it in that position. It's not as important as it was with the triggers, because the triggers were outlining actual objects in our game. This is not that important, but it's still helpful to not have it be, I don't know, kind of a pain in moving around. So when a green flag is clicked, we're going to show, but then we need to go to X and Y. This is the potions X and Y. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to drag in my ball X and Y that I saved earlier. Okay, so that one's good. Let's go to the next one, and that's when this sprite is clicked. So when this sprite is clicked, we're going to add potion to inventory. Well, potion's not right. Let's change that. We're going to change that to ball. And then the 134 and 23, we could move it to the same spot in our bag as the potion, but I don't want to. So I'm going to click on the ball there, and that's going to, like I said, move it over. But then I'm going to kind of move the ball around to where I'm wanting it in the bag. And I'm going to collect that new X and Y location. And I kind of like it there, so I'm going to do 35 and 11. Now it's in that nice position right next to the potion. And if the bag is 0, we want to show, otherwise we want to hide. That looks good. That's just behavior based on showing and hiding. That's nothing special to the ball or the potion or the apple. That's special to the bag. It's the items in our inventory reacting to what the bag's doing. And the next thing we're going to look at is when B is pressed. All right, if not item number of potion, well, that's not right. Let's change that to ball. In inventory, then it's equal to 0. Okay, that's right. That's saying that we picked it up. If the bag is equal to 0, then we want to hide. Otherwise, we want to show. I think that looks good. That should be fine. Again, this is behavior related to the bag and what the inventory should do in relation to the bag. The item number of ball is the only thing we're really worried about here. So if we restart this, it should behave fairly well. And look at that, we do. And we have that inventory. It's keeping track of what we've collected. We've collected the ball. We've collected the potion. Everything looks good. So what I actually want you guys to do now is I would like you guys to go into the Apple and try to do the same code with the Apple. And what I'll do is if you guys are having a hard time or something's not working right, I can actually have Zoom open tonight and you guys can talk to me on Zoom after this video is done. Again, I'm going to be watching this video with you, so it should finish about the same time as, me watching it should finish about the same time as you watching it, unless you pause it for any reason. Other than that, it's not a big deal to be doing this later. We can always talk on Tuesday if you want to wait for Tuesday and join the Zoom class on Tuesday. Again, please come reach out to me for the Zoom class. This last Tuesday, nobody reached out to me, so we didn't have it. It didn't just was me kind of chilling on Zoom by myself for a while. Please do get a hold of me. Let me know that you want some attention and that you need some help and that some projects need worked on. We can work on anything too. If you guys want to work on, Python or Swift or Scratch or maybe Tinkercad, it's for anything. This is kind of letting you guys ask us questions. We're talking to you a lot. We want to let you guys talk to us. So please reach out to us. I will have a survey here soon to go out to your parents. Just to ask you guys, what's working, what's not working. That way we can keep going and get this figured out while we're dealing with this pandemic. We don't know how long the pandemic's going to last. It's all questionable. So we just need to roll with the punches and we need to learn new things. We want to let you guys have an opinion and let you guys tell us what you would like to see or what changes you would like to experience, or even, if there's something new you would like to learn, what you would like to learn. So I'm going to make that available. I'm going to try to just put it on the website. I might actually post it to Twitter so it shows up on our website, so you might have to go through our Twitter feed, but it will be there. Go ahead and fill it out and let us know. Your opinion matters. It helps us shape what we're doing. So go ahead, reach out to us. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to stop recording now. I'm going to edit this video and I will be watching it with you guys very soon. Go out there, have fun, be safe, wash your hands, keep away from each other, and just stay healthy. Talk to you guys soon.